Quantum physics proved something that should have changed humanity forever, but it was buried because it threatens the entire control system that keeps you small. Subatomic particles change their behavior simply because you're watching them. Your consciousness doesn't observe reality. It collapses it from an ocean of infinite possibilities into a specific form. You possess the same power that reorganizes electrons and photons, the same power that literally sculpts matter. Itzhak Bentov, one of the most brilliant pioneers of quantum consciousness, dedicated his life to deciphering this mechanic. He revealed that you are not separate from the universe trying to manipulate it from outside. You are a vibrational antenna immersed in a unified field of intelligence, transmitting frequencies that the field mirrors back in the form of circumstances, events, people. But nobody taught you the real language that this field understands. In this video, you will learn the exact mechanics of how to consciously collapse the timeline you choose from the infinite ones that already exist now. Not cheap motivation. Applicable knowledge that changes your relationship with reality forever. Pay attention to every word, because this will reveal the power that has always been dormant within you. Consciousness doesn't observe reality, it creates it. This is the fundamental principle that quantum physics finally validated, but that ancient masters had already mastered for millennia. You need to understand something crucial now. Every subatomic particle that makes up the physical universe remains in a state of pure potentiality until your attention collapses that wave of possibilities into a defined form. This is not theory, not vague philosophy. It's the operational mechanics of reality. The double-slit experiment proved something that should completely revolutionize how you see your personal power. Particles change their behavior based on the presence of a conscious observer. They act as waves of pure possibility, traversing multiple paths simultaneously until someone looks, then they choose a specific path and become solid matter. Your attention is not neutral. It forces the quantum field to make decisions, to solidify one among infinite possibilities. You carry within you the same power that collapses electrons into defined forms. Your consciousness is the most powerful instrument in the universe because it determines which version of reality manifests from the field of infinite possibilities. Matter responds to the observer. It always has, it always will. You are not living in a prefabricated world that simply happens independent of your presence. You are in a participatory universe where your consciousness is one of the determining factors of what becomes real. Think about the implication of this for your daily life. The job you get or don't get, the relationship that flourishes or crumbles, the health you manifest or lose, all of these are quantum wave collapses influenced by the quality of your attention, by the thought patterns you feed, by the emotions you sustain. You are collapsing realities all the time, but you're doing it unconsciously on autopilot of your conditioning. The average person uses this quantum power completely accidentally. They wake up repeating the same thoughts as yesterday, feeling the same emotions as yesterday, focusing on the same worries as yesterday. Their field of attention is imprisoned in automatic loops that were programmed by family, society, past experiences. They keep collapsing minimal variations of the same reality, day after day, year after year, and wonder why their life doesn't change. It doesn't change because they haven't changed the pattern of their consciousness, which is the only instrument that sculpts reality. Now you need to absorb something even deeper. Your mind doesn't end at the boundary of your skull. Consciousness is not confined within the brain as materialist science tried to convince you. It extends, permeates, touches everything around you through the quantum field. You are constantly emitting signals, frequency waves generated by your thoughts and emotions that interact with the quantum vacuum, that invisible matrix that connects all things. These signals are not poetic metaphors. They are real, measurable, and are shaping the events you call your life at this very moment. The quantum field doesn't distinguish between a thought about the past and a thought about the future, between a memory and an intention. It simply responds to the frequency you're transmitting now. If you vibrate at the frequency of lack, worry, doubt, the field organizes particles and events that confirm that frequency. If you can sustain the frequency of certainty, abundance, gratitude for what hasn't even manifested physically yet, the field begins to reorganize matter and circumstances to mirror that new vibration. This is not superficial law of attraction, it's quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. You are immersed in an ocean of pure information, a unified field where every possibility already coexists. You float at this very moment in a unified field of cosmic intelligence that physicists call the quantum vacuum, but which is far from empty. This field is the primordial substance from which everything emerges: matter, energy, space, time. It contains all possibilities that have ever existed and will exist. Every thought that passes through your mind, every emotion that pulses in your chest generates waves that propagate through this invisible ocean of information. These waves don't remain confined to your body. They travel, interact, resonate with other frequencies in this infinite field. The quantum field doesn't recognize the limitations you've learned to accept as absolute. Physical distance means nothing to it. Linear time doesn't exist in its structure. Past and future are constructions of the human mind trying to organize a reality that, at the quantum level, is completely non-local and timeless. Everything is happening now, here, in this unified field. The particles that make up your body are entangled with particles on the other side of the universe, sharing information instantaneously, without respecting the speed of light or any other law of classical physics. This quantum entanglement proves something that mystics have always taught. Separation is an illusion of the senses. You are not isolated from the universe, observing it from afar. You are a wave in this ocean, connected to all other waves through the same field. Your intentions, your fears, your desires, all of this creates interference patterns in this energetic matrix. These patterns attract or repel events, people, circumstances. You are constantly transmitting signals, and the field is responding every second, reorganizing the dance of particles to mirror your dominant frequency. Here's what most people don't understand. Manifestation doesn't happen in the physical world you see with your eyes. It happens first in this invisible field, in this energetic matrix that precedes all material form. The car you desire, the relationship you want to attract, the financial abundance you seek, all of this already exists as an information pattern in the quantum field. Nothing is missing in the universe. All possibilities are already present in the form of probability waves. The work of your consciousness is not to create something from nothing, but to tune your frequency to the probability wave that carries the reality you want to collapse into physical form. Think of a radio. All stations are broadcasting simultaneously through the air around you. You don't see these radio waves, but they're there, permeating space. The radio doesn't create the music, it just tunes to a specific frequency and translates that wave into audible sound. Your consciousness works exactly like this. You don't create realities from scratch. You tune to specific frequencies in the quantum field, and these frequencies condense into physical experiences. The crucial question is not whether you're manifesting, you're always manifesting, you always have been. The real question is, which frequency are you unconsciously tuning into through your habitual thoughts and emotions? Most people spend their entire lives tuning to the same station. They wake up thinking about the same problems, feeling the same anxieties, reinforcing the same limiting beliefs they inherited from family and society. They're stuck in a frequency loop that keeps collapsing slightly different versions of the same frustrating reality. They complain that life doesn't change, but don't realize that they're the ones who haven't changed the dial of consciousness. They keep transmitting the frequency of scarcity, doubt, unworthiness, and the quantum field, which doesn't judge, doesn't question, just responds, keeps organizing events that perfectly mirror that transmission. You need to understand something fundamental about how this field operates. It doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't respond to your superficial thoughts. It responds to your dominant vibration, that emotional frequency you sustain most of the time, often without realizing it. You can affirm 1,000 times, "I am prosperous," but if beneath that affirmation is pulsing the frequency of fear of not having enough money, guess which signal is being transmitted with more intensity to the field? The fear, not the affirmation. The field reads energy, not language. It feels the real vibration behind your words, and it's that vibration that it mirrors back to you in the form of circumstances. This is why so many people fail with manifestation technique. They try to think positively while feeling negatively. They repeat affirmations while vibrating in doubt. They visualize abundance while carrying the frequency of lack. The quantum field doesn't care about the mental theater you're staging. It responds to what you're really emitting at the deepest energetic level. Your emotion is the language the field understands, because emotion is energy in motion literally. It generates measurable electromagnetic fields that propagate through the quantum vacuum, informing the universe which reality you're requesting. Now you begin to understand why trained, disciplined, intentional consciousness has so much power. It's not about willpower or mechanically repeating affirmations. It's about aligning your internal state, thought, emotion, conviction into a coherent frequency that transmits a clear and unequivocal signal to the field. This coherence is the secret that transforms possibility into matter. This coherence we're talking about is not abstract. It has real architecture, measurable physical structure. Your intention is not just a vague thought floating inside your head. It is an energetic construction with geometric form, specific frequency, and its own magnetic field. Ancient masters knew this deeply. They didn't draw mandalas and yantras for decorative or superficial religious reasons. They were visually mapping the patterns that focused consciousness creates in the quantum field. Modern science finally began to validate this ancestral knowledge through cymatics, the study of how sound frequencies create geometric patterns in matter. Place sand on a metal plate and make that plate vibrate at different frequencies. The sand spontaneously organizes into perfect geometric patterns, circles, hexagons, stars, complex mandalas. Change the frequency, change the pattern. Each frequency has its corresponding sacred geometry. This is not coincidence or accident of physics. It's the visible form of how vibration organizes matter. Your consciousness works exactly like this. Each thought you sustain, each emotion you feed carries a specific frequency, and that frequency organizes the quantum field around you into corresponding geometric patterns. Thoughts of anger create certain chaotic patterns. Thoughts of love create harmonious and expansive patterns. Thoughts of fear create contracted and fragmented patterns. You are literally sculpting geometries in the invisible field through the quality of your consciousness, and these geometries determine what kind of events, people, and circumstances will be attracted to your physical reality. Now we come to the crucial point that separates those who manifest unconsciously from those who manifest with mastery: coherence. Coherence means that thought, emotion, and conviction are aligned in the same direction, vibrating at the same frequency, creating a single powerful geometric pattern in the quantum field. Most people live in total incoherence. They think one thing, feel something completely different, and their deepest convictions contradict both thought and emotion. This internal fragmentation creates chaotic geometric patterns in the field, confusing signals that cancel each other out. Think of an orchestra playing. If each musician is playing a different note at different rhythms without any coordination, the result is noise, meaningless cacophony. But if all musicians play in harmony, following the same score, creating consonant chords, the result is sublime music that moves emotions and transforms states of consciousness. Your mind works like this. Your thoughts are instruments, your emotions are instruments, your convictions are instruments. Coherence is making all these instruments play the same symphony directed toward your specific intention. This is the difference between weak desire and powerful intention. Desire is fragmented. I want this, but I don't know if I can get it. Maybe I don't deserve it. It probably won't work out. Each part of that sentence is emitting contradictory frequencies that create geometric patterns that cancel each other out in the quantum field. Powerful intention is coherent, clear thought of what you want, aligned emotion feeling as if you already have it, deep conviction that it's yours by right. These three elements vibrating in unison create a geometric pattern so strong, so cohesive, that the quantum field has no choice but to respond by organizing particles and events to mirror that geometry. Quantum physicists call this collapse of the wave function. What they're technically describing is the moment when all those ghostly possibilities that exist in superposition in the quantum field suddenly choose a specific form and solidify into physical reality. What causes this collapse? Coherent consciousness. An intention so clear, so aligned, so free of internal contradiction that it acts like a laser cutting through the fog of possibilities and telling the field, this one, this specific reality among the infinite ones, is the one I choose to collapse now. You've experienced this in rare moments of your life, even if you haven't been conscious of the process. You know those moments when you wanted something with every fiber of your being, not with desperation, but with absolute certainty, with unshakable conviction, and then it manifested almost magically through impossible synchronicities, surprising encounters, opportunities that appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was your coherent consciousness collapsing the corresponding probability wave. The problem is that most people experience these moments of coherence by accident, not by conscious design. Authentic spiritual training is not about empty rituals or blind belief. It's about learning to create internal coherence on demand. It's about disciplining the mind to sustain a focused thought without dispersing in 1,000 directions. It's about cultivating the ability to generate specific emotions independent of external circumstances. It's about building convictions so deep that they become unbreakable in the face of contrary appearances. This generates real quantum power, the ability to consciously collapse the reality you choose, not the reality your conditioning chooses for you. But here lies a paradox that completely confuses the logical mind and that few masters explain with sufficient clarity. You need coherence, yes, thought, emotion, and conviction aligned. But this coherence needs to exist within a very specific emotional state that seems to contradict everything the rational mind understands about getting what you want. This paradox is as follows. The more desperately you cling to what you desire, the more anxiously you pursue it, the more obsessively you check if it's working, the more you feed exactly the frequency that repels what you want. This frustrates the logical mind because it was trained to believe that intense effort and obsessive focus lead to result. In the quantum world, the mechanics are different. The universe doesn't respond to the intensity of your desire, it responds to the quality of your vibration. Think about what happens internally in you every time you desire something desperately. You think about it constantly, but from what angle? From the angle of, I don't have this yet. From the angle of, I urgently need this because my life is incomplete without it. From the angle of, please, universe, give me this now because I can't stand this lack anymore. Each of these thoughts, each of these emotions is transmitting a very clear signal to the quantum field. Lack. You're not vibrating at the frequency of what you desire, you're vibrating at the frequency of the absence of what you desire. The quantum field doesn't interpret your intentions. It doesn't analyze the content of your thoughts like a psychologist trying to understand what you really mean. It simply mirrors your dominant frequency. You vibrate lack, it organizes more experiences of lack. You vibrate scarcity, it organizes more circumstances of scarcity. You vibrate I need, it organizes situations that confirm that state of need. This is not punishment or cruelty of the universe. It's pure mechanics, cause and effect at the energetic level. Now comes the part that seems impossible for the conditioned mind. You need to feel as if you already have what you desire before having it physically. You need to vibrate at the frequency of realization, gratitude, completeness, even though external reality is still showing the opposite. This is not pretense or denial of reality. It's you recognizing that physical reality is always a delayed reflection of your energetic frequency. What you're vibrating now will manifest later. If you wait for physical manifestation to only then feel gratitude and realization, you've completely inverted the quantum order of things. Spiritual masters always taught this in different ways. Ask and you shall receive, but then they added, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have already received it, and it will be yours. Notice the structure of that sentence. It's not believe you will receive in the future. It's believe you have already received. Present tense, as if it were already real. This is the vibration that collapses the corresponding probability wave, because you're not transmitting lack, you're transmitting possession, realization, completeness. But here enters an even deeper paradox. To genuinely feel as if you already have it without desperation, without anxiety, without obsessive checking, you need to be willing not to have it. You need to reach that internal state where you really want it, you clearly chose it, but you don't depend on it to feel complete. You're not using manifestation as medicine for an unhealed emotional wound. You're not trying to fill an internal void with external achievements. This is true detachment, not the false detachment where you pretend you don't care or suppress your desires. Real detachment is being so whole internally that you can want something intensely without collapsing in desperation if it doesn't come. It's being so connected with your own internal source of completeness that desires become preferences, not neurotic needs. And ironically, it's exactly this state that creates the most powerful magnetic field for manifestation, because you finally stopped transmitting lack. Think of someone you know who is naturally prosperous. Not someone who got rich overnight, but someone who carries that energy of abundance independent of circumstances. Notice the emotional relationship that person has with money. They're not obsessed. They don't anxiously check their bank account 10 times a day. They don't talk about money with that tone of constant worry. They simply have a quiet certainty that money flows, that things work out, that abundance is natural. This vibration of certainty without desperation is what attracts more abundance. The universe mirrors that frequency of I have, not I need. You can apply this to any area of life. Relationships, the person who is desperately hunting for a partner, obsessively checking dating apps, feeling incomplete alone, repels exactly what they seek. They vibrate neediness, and neediness attracts either equally needy people or drives away healthy people. But someone who is complete alone, who feels good in their own company, who would like a relationship but doesn't collapse without one, emits an irresistible magnetism. Health, someone who is obsessed with disease, monitoring every symptom with panic, living in constant fear, feeds exactly the frequency that perpetuates the problem. Someone who mentally already sees themselves healthy, who feels gratitude for the body that is healing, changes the internal chemistry and the energetic field around them. So how do you reach this paradoxical state of wanting intensely without desperation, of having clear intention without neurotic attachment? You cultivate what could be called anticipatory gratitude. You train your consciousness to feel now the emotion you would feel if that were already real, not as a superficial mental exercise, but as a deep practice of tuning your emotional frequency. You close your eyes and allow your body to feel the emotion of realization. You don't visualize forced images, you dive into the feeling. Gratitude, peace, fulfillment, certainty. These emotional states create coherent electromagnetic fields that the quantum field recognizes as signals of already realized. True detachment is born from this practice. You stop anxiously pursuing because you're already vibrating at the frequency of realization. You stop checking if it's working because you trust the quantum process. You stop trying to control every detail because you delivered your clear intention to the field and let cosmic intelligence organize the details in ways your limited mind could never plan. You become a magnet instead of a pursuer, and everything changes. But understanding all this intellectually doesn't mean you've mastered the process. True quantum power only awakens through something most people never consider: the ability to consciously navigate between parallel realities that already exist now. Every decision you make, every thought you choose to sustain, every emotion you allow to dominate your energetic field opens a portal to a different timeline. This is not poetic metaphor. It's the real structure of how the quantum multiverse operates. Quantum physics mathematically confirmed what shamans and consciousness masters always taught. Parallel realities coexist simultaneously, multiple versions of you living different lives based on different choices, all happening now in this eternal moment. At this exact instant, somewhere in the field of infinite probabilities, there already exists a version of you who has achieved everything you desire. That version is not in the future waiting for you to get there. It exists now as a probability wave in the quantum ocean. The perfect relationship you seek is already being lived by a version of you in a parallel timeline. The financial abundance you want to manifest, another version of you already vibrates at that frequency in an adjacent reality. Radiant health, fulfilled purpose, inner peace, all of this already exists as perfectly formed information patterns in the quantum field. The quantum power within you is not in creating these realities from scratch. Your power is in tuning your consciousness to the timeline where what you desire is already real, and then collapsing that specific possibility from wave form to physical form. You're not building a different future. You're choosing between futures that already exist in potential, deciding which one will solidify in your experience. This completely changes how you approach manifestation. You stop trying to force through brute effort. You begin to recognize that your work is to adjust your frequency, change your state of being, until you resonate with the desired timeline. Think of a radio with dozens of stations broadcasting simultaneously. You don't create the music, you tune the frequency. Your consciousness works like this. You tune to a specific frequency through your emotional and mental state, and that specific reality begins to manifest. But most people are stuck playing the same note day after day. They wake up at the same frequency as yesterday because they repeat the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, act from the same automatic patterns. They're trapped in a timeline because they never changed the frequency that keeps them anchored there. They complain that life doesn't change, but don't realize that they need to change first, not external circumstances, but the internal frequency that determines which timeline they're continuously collapsing. Quantum leaps between realities don't happen through detailed planning or elaborate mental strategies. They happen through state changes. You jump from one timeline to another the moment you genuinely change your state of being. You know those rare moments when something clicked inside you, and suddenly you felt completely different? Those are quantum leaps. You jumped from one timeline to another, and soon after physical reality began to reflect that jump through synchronicities, new opportunities, unexpected encounters. The secret masters know is that you can make these jumps intentionally. You can train your consciousness to inhabit the state of being of the version of you that already lives the desired reality. You close your eyes and ask, how does this version of me feel? How does it think? What is the emotional frequency it carries? And then you practice sustaining that state until it becomes so natural that it replaces your old state as the default. Each time you do this consistently, you're creating coherence between your current consciousness and the desired timeline. You're building an energetic bridge between where you are and where you want to be. The quantum field responds to this coherence by reorganizing particles, influencing apparently random events, orchestrating synchronicities that guide you to that new reality. Every act of faith is a literal quantum leap. Every moment of unshakable certainty, Every instant you sustain the frequency of what you desire despite contrary appearances, you're anchoring your consciousness in a new timeline. And the universe begins to confirm through something very specific that few know how to interpret correctly. The universe begins to speak with you through synchronicities the moment you awaken your quantum power and align your frequency with a new timeline. Repeating numbers appearing in impossible places, encounters that defy any probability calculation, coincidences your logical mind can't explain, these are not random accidents of cosmic chaos. They are precise confirmations that your frequency is synchronized with the reality you're manifesting. The quantum field is conversing with you through patterns, and learning to read these patterns is an essential part of conscious mastery of creation. Think about how the field operates. It can't send you an email or text message saying, "You're on the right track, keep going." It communicates through the language it speaks, the language of energetic patterns, resonance, vibrational alignment. Synchronicities are the visible signs that you're in coherence with a specific timeline. Each time you see 11:11 on the clock without having planned to look at that exact moment, each time you think of someone and that person calls you seconds later, each time you need information and a book falls from the shelf with exactly that answer, the field is confirming that you've left unconscious creation mode and entered conscious co-creation mode. Synchronicities multiply proportionally to your internal coherence. People who live in mental and emotional chaos, jumping from one thought to another, from one contradictory emotion to another, rarely experience meaningful synchronicities. Not because the universe abandoned them, but because they're emitting such fragmented signals that the field can't organize a clear response. But someone who has cultivated coherence, focused thought, aligned emotion, deep conviction, begins to live in a constant flow of synchronicities because their crystalline frequency allows the field to respond with surgical precision. You need to understand something crucial about these synchronicities. They're not just passive confirmations like a postcard from the universe saying hi. They are active instructions, navigation points showing the shortest path between your current reality and the timeline you chose. That unlikely encounter with someone is not coincidence, it's the universe positioning a key person in your path. That sudden impulse to turn left instead of going straight is not randomness, it's the quantum field guiding you to an opportunity your conscious mind couldn't predict. That idea that comes out of nowhere while you're showering is not random thought, it's cosmic intelligence downloading information directly into your consciousness. Most people ignore these synchronicities or rationalize them as mere coincidence because they were trained to trust only linear logic. They expect the universe to communicate through rational, predictable methods that make sense to the conditioned mind. But the quantum field operates through nonlinear leaps, instantaneous connections that transcend time and space. It orchestrates events through an intelligence that is operating in dimensions your three-dimensional mind can't completely map. Trusting synchronicities is trusting this superior intelligence that sees all paths simultaneously and is constantly conspiring in your favor. You were never alone in this journey of conscious manifestation. Cosmic intelligence has always been on your side, sending signals, opening doors, creating bridges between you and the reality you chose. But it can only work with the material you provide, the frequency you emit, the coherence you maintain, the trust you place in the quantum process. Each synchronicity you recognize and give thanks for strengthens the communication channel between your individual consciousness and universal consciousness. Each signal you follow opens the way for the next signal. You enter a flow where life stops being a battle and becomes a coordinated dance with the intelligence that weaves all things. Now you're ready to apply all this knowledge practically and completely transform your life. What frequency are you transmitting at this exact moment? Fear or certainty? Lack or abundance? Are you vibrating on the timeline you desire or the one you've always lived by default? These questions need to become your daily practice, because every second you're manifesting, consciously or unconsciously, the choice has always been yours. The quantum field is waiting for your clear signal. Synchronicities are ready to guide you. The version of you that already lives the desired reality exists now in a parallel timeline. You just need to tune to the correct frequency and sustain that coherence until the physical mirrors the energetic. If this content awakens something in you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. We'll continue exploring the secrets of quantum consciousness that can completely transform your life. The power has always been within you.